Good day everyone. I am Kim Cheers S. Martin and I'm going to discuss about language transfer. For example, my first language is Bisaya, my second language is Filipino, and my third language is English. It is because when I was in elementary, the language being used by the teacher for discussion and for instructing is Filipino and English. So in order for me to understand and can participate, I relate it to my previous knowledge. So language transfer occurs. Another example, try to think you're standing and after 2 minutes you transfer. As you transfer, your location now is not the same to your location a while ago. So just like in language, when you transfer to another language, there's a change in some aspect of language, like in grammar, spelling, vocabulary, etc. We must take note that our first language played an important role in acquiring and learning second language. For example, your native language is Bisaya and you have an American friend. So in order for her to understand what you're talking about, you transfer it to English. Like, "Nanoday ka" turns to "What's wrong with you?" The spelling of "Nanoday ka" to "What's wrong with you?" is really different, but my accent is an evidence that I am Bisaya. So they said that Cebuanos are good in English, but for me, not all Cebuano. So language transfer has two types, positive and negative. Positive transfer occurs when the learners transfer the features from L1 that is very similar to L2 while performing the L2. For example, the second language learner of English transfer "Ganahan ko nimo" to "I like you." "Ganahan ko nimo" is the learner's native language. "I like you" is the learner's target language. Another example, "Ayoko sa muka" turns to "Don't bother me." Like that. While negative transfer occurs when the learner transfer features from L1 that is very different to L2 while performing the L2. For example, your crush share her negative feedback to the government project to you. Then you want to in that moment you wanted to say "Ganahan ko nimo" but in English. So you interrupt her and say "like you." So it lead confusion to your crush or it might get her angry. So she wanted to reply "Ayoko sa muka" but in English. But she replied "bother me." So "like you" instead of "I like you," "bother me" instead of "don't bother me" is an example of negative transfer. So language transfer may be conscious or unconscious. Conscious language transfer, learners or unskilled translator may sometimes guess when producing speech or text in a second language. For me, it usually happens in writing because based on my experience, sometimes I also guess the correct structure or term. If the sentence I constructed sounds awkward, I reconstruct my sentence or use another word. While in unconscious language transfer, they may not realize the structure and internal rules of languages in question are different. It is because they are unconscious. So for me, it usually happens in speaking, because when we when we speak, we don't monitor our speech all the time or monitor our user. So for me, this in this language transfer, the learner is monitor under user because the learner is unconscious. So we'll go back to conscious. If you are confused why the learner sometimes guess when producing speech or text, there are two possible reasons. It could be the learner have not learned the language. Another, the learner have forgotten its proper usage. So that's it. So language transfer can have an affective factors or negative emotion that can affect the learning or your learning or your acquisition of second language. These are the stressed, uncomfortable, self-conscious, and unmotivated. So all in all, language transfer is a process. We cannot acquire language like a pro if we didn't pass in this process. So by constantly practicing and learning, we can be a pro in speaking. We can be a pro in speaking English. So that's it, and thank you for listening.